Hi everyone, this is Ali Hussein Kassim of Ali Talks Tech. My guest today is Imran Said. Imran is Group CEO of Link Africa. Imran, tell us a little bit about yourself and then talk to us about Link Africa and what Link Africa is doing.
Sure. Thanks very much, Ali.
Welcome.
I'm 34 years in the telco industry.
Wow.
So I'm giving away my age now. So, and all or most
years.
of the 34 years is in Africa.
So you've grown up through the government monopoly telecoms across Africa.
100%.
And then grew up.
It was just
Whoa.
one telecoms operator in South Africa at that time in the early 90s.
Telecom South Africa.
It was called Post Office and Telecoms.
Wow.
And then it changed in 1994 to Telecom South Africa. Yes.
Wow. Okay. 34 years.
34 years.
Wow. A lot of history there. So,
yeah, I've worked in telecom. I started in telecom. It was Post Office, Post and Telecoms. Then I moved into Africa with MTN, Vodacom, building sites across Africa. It was Nigeria, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, with a company called Plessy under Dimension Data.
yes, I remember Plessy.
Yes, I've built mobile towers across Africa. So from fixed line to
So
mobile.
you are on the technical side.
On
You are
the
a telecoms engineer.
I'm a telecoms engineer by profession.
Okay.
I've done my engineering side and then moved into technology, technologist, and then my PhD was on technology as well, on telecom side as well, open access.
Wow.
So I then was invited to start up the second network operator in South Africa, which was called SNO at that time.
Okay.
It became Neotel. And today it's known as Liquid, but it was Neotel, which was the second network operator in 2006. So I spent about 13 years there, and I ended up as group CTO, Chief Technology Officer. Promoted open access, and that's promoted open access since 2006 with Vodacom, MTN, and even Telecom.
Please tell my audience what open access is.
Yeah, the challenge we have in Africa is a lot of the telecoms and CTOs go and compete on infrastructure layer. And I say it's a waste of time competing on infrastructure layer. You should. It doesn't matter how many towers you have or how many meters of fiber you have in the ground. It's your service that you put on top of it that should count. And I'm saying if we didn't have...
So layering on top of...
your physical layer.
Your physical infrastructure.
And don't compete on the infrastructure layer. It means absolutely nothing.
Because that's like real estate.
It is real estate. But if you don't have service and if you don't have customers on it, it means absolutely nothing.
Interesting. We were talking about that last night over dinner.
100%. So I'm saying if we didn't do what we've done the last 25, 30 years in Africa, we would have had far better coverage in Africa than we do now. If we didn't do
Explain that.
So we've got companies that went and built networks on top of each other, next to each other. We've got, in South Africa, if you look at 90s and the early 2000s, we had MTN and Vodacom building sites next to each other.
Waste of money.
Waste of money.
And time.
And time and space, and it added no value. And why? Because we're competing on how many towers we've got and how many meters of fiber we've got, and not how much customers and what's your SLA with the customers.
As a customer, I don't care.
100%. Your service
All I need
connectivity.
is connectivity.
100%. So I've been promoting open access with Neotel. I've built the first open access network in Africa in 2007, 8, 9, 10, before the World Cup, which was with MTN, with Vodacom. I offered it to Telecom, and we've offered it to CLC, but they didn't join at that time.
At that time, it must have been quite revolutionary to actually think like that. What was the uptake?
It was hectic. I signed off with MTN first.
Okay.
MTN joined in and bought into the concept because they needed access to national long distance fiber
Correct.
across Africa. Vodacom couldn't join me at that time because of the fact they were doing shareholding change from Telecom to Vodafone Group.
I see.
But I sat with Shamil and the team. Andries Delport was the CTO at that time. And I told him, we'll still invest for Vodacom. We know once you have the change done with shareholder, you'll join us. And 9 months later, they joined us.
Wow.
So it was good because I fought the battle with Tata to invest that money for Vodacom for that first 9 months. So
That was a leap of faith, Imran.
it was, but there was enough need for fiber in the country.
Okay.
Even if Vodacom didn't take it.
So it was a very calculated risk.
It was a calculated risk, and I presented it to the board of Tata, and they've accepted it. And I mean, in that 9 months, Vodacom came in, joined the co-build agreement with MTN and Neotel. It became a tri-party agreement. And then
co-building agreement.
Yes.
I love that term.
Co-building. So we ended up building the 5,000 national long distance kilometers. 5,000 kilometers of fiber that connects the Golden Triangle, which is Joburg, Durban, Cape Town.
And this is all based on open access architecture.
Open access architecture. It could have went even better. I mean, they didn't buy into the concept. I was prepared to put a single fiber, as in a single cable.
Yes.
But they wanted their own cable in the single trench. But it's still fine. It's a Rolls-Royce network.
You know,
it's
my
still
daughters,
doing well.
my daughters, they love this emoji that goes like this. That's exactly what I'm thinking right now, you know? Oh, man. Okay, go on.
So that network was built. And while doing that there, MTN and Vodacom had consultants from America. So when they finished that project, the guy joined Facebook. And then he asked me to come in and join Facebook and promote open access in Africa. So it was tough.
So from a telco, old school structure, but you were thinking open access way before most people.
100%.
Then to literally an OTT player like Facebook.
100%.
Wow.
But the condition of joining Facebook was that I promote open access in Africa, not in Europe, not where Facebook was, not in US obviously, but to do and to connect the unconnected in Africa. That's why I joined.
How many years did you spend in Facebook?
5 years.
On that? 5 years.
5 years.
Whoa, spending 5 years in Facebook is like spending 100 years in that company.
It was brilliant. It's brilliant culture, brilliant people. I learned a lot. Hopefully, I could have taught them a few things, but
I'm sure you have.
It was brilliant. We did a lot of work in Africa, in Nigeria, in Uganda, in Kenya, Mozambique, Zambia. Again, promoting open access, and we did the 2 Africa cable, which is the undersea cable that Facebook is doing.
Yes.
On an open access methodology. So,
you know why I love this conversation, Imran, is that you have seen the ecosystem grow from monopolistic,
for sure,
literally redundant government-led telcos to driving open access architecture from ground up, convincing some of the biggest players in the continent to embrace open access, and then switching and working for Facebook for 5 years. So let's zero in now to what you're currently doing.
Yeah, thanks. Facebook, we finished the projects. We closed the deals with the projects. The projects are still being executed. They're still laying the undersea cable. They're still completing the 4,000 kilometers of fiber in DRC, in Zambia, in Nigeria. We're busy with some projects on execution. Facebook stopped signing new deals in Africa because they wanted to move to get metaverse ready. And metaverse ready was only in first world countries and only in Europe and in US. So I started working in Europe for the 1 year, and I told him,
This is not me.
yeah, I joined to connect Africa, and I need to do that there. And they said, no, I can work from here, but I'll have to. So I said, no, even if I can work from here, I'm still doing work in Europe. I need to.
Yeah.
So I've given him 3 months' notice, and I took up a project now to lead the Link Africa Group Holdings company.
Okay.
Again, that
So
was
how
only
long
physical.
ago was that?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Okay. So Link Africa now.
Link Africa was purely infrastructure player.
Okay.
Only layer 1, layer 2 services, providing physical infrastructure.
What's layer 1 and what's layer 2 services?
Basically,
from a fiber infrastructure perspective.
From a fiber perspective, you're basically talking of building the infrastructure only, and you're not doing any lit services or capacity on it. You're not doing managed services. You're not doing OTT services. You're not doing cloud services, security. It's just connectivity. Your physical layer of connectivity from point A to point B was what Link Africa has been. So when I joined them, I told them, that's awesome, but we'll need to move up the stack. They need to give me the free rein to drive that there. And we need to move into open access fully, because they still were not into full open access. And there's still a lot of companies in South Africa that's not.
That's across Africa.
Yeah. They talk a good story.
They talk a good
but when
talk,
it's time
but
to implement it, it's, yeah. So they've given me full rein. I then acquired Bidco to move up the stack. So it's an ISP. So Bidco is, it's also about an 18-year-old company.
Okay.
So I've bought Bidco we only finalized the deal this year in April, May.
Okay.
And then that's became the ISP that lights up the fiber. Not just our fiber, anyone else's fiber. Over and above that, I created a new company called Cloud Dynamics. Cloud Dynamics now does cloud services, security services, unified comms.
That's interesting.
So it moved up the stack, and then your margins is there as well to help, obviously.
So you have Link Africa Group, and then you have 3 companies.
Yes.
Okay, so you now have
Link Africa
Link
itself,
Africa,
Cloud Dynamics,
and
Bidco.
Bidco.
Yes.
Okay, and the third one?
It's Link Africa.
Oh, okay.
So you got Link Africa Holdings.
Cool.
It's a holding company. Then you got Link Africa Fiber.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Cloud Dynamics, and then you've got.
I see. Okay.
Bidco.
And how's that going?
Going well. I think that's going very well. We now promoting the open access with the other players, with the likes of Liquid, DFA, Vodacom, MTN. We've made it publicly known to them. If you want our fiber, and even if you want it free, I'll give it to you for free. Right? It was a simple reciprocal agreement. If you want it free, then you give me yours free. If you want to pay R1 million for it, then I'll pay you R1 million. But I was prepared to open access and give it to anyone for free.
So you are driving that open access policy still?
100%.
You've been at it for how long now, open access conversation?
From 2006, I did my PhD on open access, and I've been promoting open access since then.
Please, as a side, I would love to read your
I'll
PhD
share that with you.
Please.
It is on LinkedIn, actually. It's on LinkedIn. The dissertation is on there.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Because one of the key things, I'm involved in policy.
For sure.
A lot in my home country, Kenya. And one of the roles that I have is I chair the board of the Kenya ICT Action Network, which is a policy framework, rather a policy think tank on tech issues, on ICT issues.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that we're always talking about is how all these telcos are
trenching next to each other,
messing up the whole, and stuff. It's a big mess. And I think that open access conversation is probably one of the most important things that we need to drive, not just in Kenya or South Africa, but
the continent. 100%. I've presented the open access at Novacom last year, in this session here actually.
Yes.
So I presented a 1 hour on open access and what we're doing and what we should do to promote open access. You know, it's sad that we bring a lot of resources, good resources,
Yeah.
from Europe or from US or whatever, but we've got sufficient resources in the continent to drive this. If you know the
100%.
continent, you know the challenges the continent is faced with, you understand technology, but we need to get rid of the egos. Us CTOs and CEOs still got the ego of competing on infrastructure layer.
I've got
So many
1,000 kilometers of fiber. I mean, who F cares? Forgive my French.
No, exactly.
Really, as an end customer, all I need from you is, are you giving me good service
100%.
at a reasonable cost?
100%. And if you were not competing on that infrastructure layer, you would have connected far more people.
100%.
You would have improved the GDP of the country and of the continent. And that's what we need to do, and that's what we need to drive. And I think that's what I told Facebook. I need to leave a legacy here, and that needs to be that legacy. You know, that you've made that small change in the entire way that the whole industry was thinking.
So in Kenya, I don't know whether you are aware of this, but the Kenya government has invested billions of shillings on a fiber network that crisscrosses the country, called NOFB, National Optical Fiber Backbone Infrastructure. A lot of that fiber is still dark fiber to date. So
Are they sharing it to the operators? But
yes,
okay, that's good.
Telecom Kenya is supposed to be the manager of that
Operator.
fiber. Yes, operator of that.
Okay.
But long story short, that's not really working very well. So that sort of thinking is great. But then governments across Africa, I firmly believe that when it comes to tech, we have a policy framework conversation that we must resolve fast. Just like Europe has been super good about some of these things, driving policy to grow ecosystems. For example, Europe drove policy on open banking.
Sure.
The PSD2, the payment service directives.
Sure.
What that did was it opened up a whole new world of financial services to players, to Europeans, and it born a whole new ecosystem of fintechs.
Wow.
And that's the sort of thing Africa needs to learn from other continents.
100%.
We have been, forefront in mobile money and stuff like that.
Sure.
This open access, Imran, is something that this continent needs, not today, not tomorrow, yesterday.
100. What I said last year in Novacom as well was, let politicians be politicians, that's fine.
Yeah.
But they should get someone in the industry to drive it. They have
That's
brilliant
correct.
ideas, I promise you. I mean, they've been talking about open access, they've been talking about shared network from day one. So from a policy perspective, it's there. The challenge we have in government is it changes every 5 years.
Yeah.
It lacks implementation. The
Completely.
idea is there, the implementation is not
Everybody has an eye. After 2 years, we have an eye
there. It changes.
to be re-elected
100%.
or changes. So there's no continuity.
You need to hire, whether you're a telecoms minister, hire a person that's in the telecom industry to drive it for you.
That's true.
If you're gone as a politician, that's fine. That person is still there for
That's true.
continuity. He understands the network, he understands the technology, he understands telecoms.
I agree.
And he makes a difference on that
agree.
there.
I agree.
So, with all respect to government, it's good ideas, but there's no implementation. And that's not just South Africa, it's across
No,
Africa.
it's across Africa.
Yeah. So that's a challenge.
Wow. So what next for Link Africa beyond South Africa?
We're looking at Angola. Our main shareholder, the Sovereign Fund of Angola, is 45% shareholder.
Oh,
They've
the
asked-
Sovereign Fund of Angola,
Angola, 100%.
has invested in Link Africa.
Yes, They're a major shareholder.
That's forward thinking.
That's what. So I've been
So
there.
of course you've got to go do Angola.
I was in
sooner
Angola
rather than
this. Yeah, I was there two months ago. We're looking at one of the companies there to take over.
Okay.
And grow it into Africa as well. And again, it will be not starting up new companies. There's enough companies in Africa to get the transatlantic fiber across, or the transcontinental
So when you're
fiber.
thinking about East Africa, please talk to me.
For sure, no problem, no problem.
So Imran, I'm sorry, we are coming towards the end of this. I mean, we only have like between 15 to 20 minutes.
For sure.
But as I was telling my other guests, I really would love to have a much longer conversation with you. So I will definitely reach out to you to talk more. This open access conversation is super intriguing, not just for me, I'm sure, but for my audience too. So thank you so much.
And thanks for the opportunity. And
Anytime.
let's make that difference.
Let us do that. Let us do that. Thank you
All
so
right.
much, sir.
Cheers.
All right, cheers.
All right.
Thanks.